Mr. Davidian is the president. So, of course, the names have disappeared. I can't see them. I'm going to just finish up with DCJS staff. So, Kimberly?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kimberly Chavone with Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives, and I handle fiscal and administrative duties there.
Katie? Katie Cullen?
Good morning, Katie Cullen. I'm in the fiscal unit.
Thank you,
Good
Katie.
morning.
All right. DeShonda?
Good morning, everyone. My name is DeShonda Macklin. I'm also in the fiscal management unit, and I am doing the minutes.
Shonda? John? Watson?
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Watson. I'm an associate counsel with the Office of Legal Services at DCJS.
Thank you, John. Anna, are you on?
Yep. Ana Bermudez, former commissioner of the New York City Department of Probation.
All right, going to go Hollywood Square style now. Judge Zayas?
Morning, everyone. Joe Zayas, I'm a commission member, chief administrative judge of the court system, and I have some of my colleagues from the court system online as well.
Judge, would you mind asking them to introduce themselves?
Sure, of course. So, Carl.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Carl Flans. I'm principal law clerk to Chief Administrative Judge Zayas.
Mickey.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mickey Hendricks, Special Projects Counsel to Judge Zayas.
And Rosemary.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rosemary Martinez Borges, and I serve as Deputy Chief Administrative Judge Edwina Richardson's Deputy Chief of Staff. I also lead our Division of Youth and Emerging Adult Justice in OJI.
Thank you, everyone. Rocco?
Rocco Posey. I'm the Commissioner of Probation in Westchester County.
Thank you, Rocco. Joe?
Joe Wargo, good morning, from Watertown, New York, Snow Country, past POA president and a probation supervisor with Jefferson County Probation.
Thank you. I will note Dr. Jeffrey Butts, who's a commission member, is on his way up to Albany, but his train has been delayed, so he expects to be here approximately at 10:30. When Dr. Butts gets here, we'll have him introduce himself. So Teresa told me I got everybody. Once again, thank you, both commission members and guests, for taking the time to attend our fall commission meeting. It's really important that we get commission members in attendance, as well as other guests are certainly welcome. It certainly makes for a more robust conversation. And I really do see the commission itself as being really a breeding ground for pushing probation practice forward in New York State. Moving forward in the agenda, and everybody has an agenda. It should be in your packets. I'm going to ask people to take about 2 or 3 minutes for those that may not have had the opportunity to review the minutes of our June spring meeting. Take a look at those minutes, and then I will ask for an approval of those minutes once you've had the opportunity to take a look at them. So 2 minutes, please. It's all business. Okay, do I have an approval for the June 26, 2025 Probation Commission meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
That was Joe.
Rocco,
And Rocco second.
or whatever yeah, that's fine.
All right, well, let the record reflect that Joe Wargo made a motion to approve and Rocco Posey second. Thank you very much. Any changes to those minutes? Hearing none, moving forward. I'm going to turn it over to Frank Cangiano of OPCA to talk a little bit about the commission's role and the commission's authority. Once again, I'm going to just quickly make this statement that I make every single time. We really worked hard to kind of change the focus of the commission meetings, to make it more involved and inclusive of the commission members. And so we really encourage the commission members to be active and bring any topics forward that you want your fellow commission members to consider and move forward to push to OPCA and DCJS to act on. So with that, Frank?
Thank you, Matt. Just pointing to these sections in New York State Executive Law 242, 243, and 246, which really indicates where the Probation Commission is mentioned, as well as state aid for probation services. According to Article 12, Section 242, not only does this law mandate that there shall be a state probation commission, but that the commission shall consist of the state director of probation and correctional alternatives and 6 other members. 3 who shall be appointed by the governor from among persons who, as members of the community, have demonstrated an interest and involvement in the field of probation to hold office at the pleasure of the governor and until their successors are appointed. 2 shall be appointed by the governor from among the probation administrators and the probation officers actually employed in the field who have demonstrated by work in the statewide professional association and also concerned generally with the state of probation across New York State. And 1 who shall be the state administrator of unified court system. So as Matt indicated, the duties of this commission are to attend the meetings, to consider all matters related to probation across New York State within the jurisdiction of OPCA, and to advise and consult with the director in regard to those issues. So currently we have 6 members of the commission, including Matt as a chairperson, and we currently have 1 vacant position that's currently in process. So that's all I have to say about the executive law itself. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or anything they want to bring up? All right, hearing none. I'll next move on to agenda item number 5. And this was actually a topic that was brought by one of our probation commission members, Anna Bermudez. And Anna is going to present on some research and a framework on supervision of 18 to 24-year-olds on probation. So Anna, please take it away.
Okay, well, this is less of a presentation than presenting an issue that I think the commission should take on, especially given Teresa and my participation in the Youth and Emerging Adult Justice Conference that was had recently. Rosemary, I hear now that there's going to be like also another a work group, I guess, or something within, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that too, because I think it would be great to have, what I'm suggesting is that we create a work group within, probation to explore the different potential models for working with young adults. I don't know if people got a chance to read what Frank had sent from the Columbia Justice Lab, because it's not like a cookie cutter thing, like this is the way it should be done or not, but that there is a lot of science, a lot of data, outcomes, etc., that would indicate that if probation departments had a particular both focus and approach with the 18 in the adult system, actually the 18 to 24s or the 16 to 24s that stay in the adult system, outcomes would be better. We would sort of stave off further, introduction. I mean, the word is penetration, but I hate that word. I'm sorry. I can't say that. Further involvement and more serious involvement in the adult system. And so my sense would be that we should look at what does the data say at probation if we cut it by age in terms of successful completion or recidivism rates. I know when I was in the city, young adults of that age group constituted about 27% of the probation population and accounted for more than 50% of our rearrest rates, the rearrest. And then on top of that, they tended to come in most prominently with and the ones that came in with either robbery, assaults, or weapons charges. And with the assaults, it didn't matter if it was misdemeanors or felonies. They did worse. So we then started, sort of narrowing down also, and we created not just the protocols for the young adults in general, but then within that, the young adults that have robbery, assaults, and weapons got sort of extra stuff, in terms of both structure and supervision and support, because they were the most disengaged really of a lot of the young people that we saw. So anyway, and we tried, and then that's where the whole Credible Messenger Mentors, the Arches programs were focused on. And so I just would like to open it up for comments, questions, from others, and to see if you'll think it's a good would be a good use of our time to create a work group on this issue.
So down here in Westchester, Anna, years before Raise the Age, we had made a decision that we were going to treat 16 to 24-year-old kids that were in our adult population at that time in a different model. I mean, we just couldn't use the same, strategies that we were using on the older population. It just doesn't, it just doesn't relate. So, so we created, we made the decision to deal with that population in almost like a family court model.
Right.
That we wanted to initiate. So we created a separate unit. We dealt with them differently. The programming was a little bit differently because we understood that a 16 or 17-year-old and now an 18 or 19-year-old thinks a lot differently than a 30 or a 35-year-old. So you just can't use that model anymore. So you need to come up with a new model.
And what did you find? Like, have you found it successful? Like, how would you define how it worked? How it's worked?
No, we're still doing it, and it works fairly well. I think we've seen a lot of positive results, in dealing, with the younger population and in a family court model rather than an adult model. So
Cool.
I don't have any numbers for you, Anna, but we can.
No. I mean, it's great that I mean, you guys were always ahead of the curve in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ludicrous, in trying to do the same programming for a 16-year-old that you're doing on a 35-year-old. It's nuts.
And also, I mean, when I first got to our department, you had POs also with 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, et cetera, and then a couple of 17 or 19-year-olds. And, it just was too much to ask of the officers also to have two hats, of like developmentally appropriate for the young people and then the older people. And so those kids were also falling through the cracks a little bit.
Yeah, you're right, especially when you're doing group work. I mean, you can't have a 16 or 17-year-old with a group in a group with a 35-year-old. I mean, it just doesn't work. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else around the state is has considered doing something like that.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was muted. But Rosemary, can you tell us how many emerging adults courts that problem solving courts we've created, and whether or not probation is involved? To what extent is probation involved in those courts? I know we have some of them, and I know we're in the process of creating others. But
Sure, Judge Lyons, thank you. So good morning, everyone, again. Right now, we have what we would consider emerging adult courts or parks. So not full courts, but that have tracks serving emerging adults. We have 1, 2, 6, so 12 altogether throughout the state. In some of those, we also have some unique, just to add more acronyms, UCAM parts, which work very closely with probation, and those are geared towards mostly misdemeanor parts, and a deep connection with mentorship. So those are our UCAN emerging adult parts. We have one emerging adult part that works within an IDV court as well. We would have, I would say the largest emerging adult part is an ATI part in New York County, where Judge Bybin, who's the administrative judge, that's her, who's the administrative part. So she's got the fully operational emerging adult part. Because she has felony, she has violent felony, she has all kinds of cases. Some of our emerging adult parts are limited to misdemeanors. And we have an emerging adult track at the Midtown Community Center as well. We have 2 emerging adult parts in Westchester County, one in Mount Vernon and one in New Rochelle. So there's like pockets. We also have one in the 10th JD in Suffolk County in the district court. So there are pockets of it throughout the state. And so we've integrated in the last 2 years. Whenever we do a presentation that our office organized, we have a session on emerging adult justice, because quite frankly, some folks don't realize, like, we're talking about a particular age group, 18 to 25. And every time we present, so when Anna and Teresa were at our youth summit, we had a presentation on emerging adult justice. And the brain science supports it. It is, based upon science, not just based upon the age, but it's, the development of the brain in this cohort of justice involved individuals. And we are working on expanding it. So there's always an interest. We're working on expanding an alternatives to incarceration part right now that would incorporate emerging adult age in Bronx County. So there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of pockets throughout the state where this is growing.
Yeah, but to Judge Sias's point, I think if there could be probation representation in those developments or whatever, or outreach to probation, that might be good, because having CLOs in those parts would be great, in terms of.
I can tell you, Rosemary, in Westchester, Judge Rice runs a great program in New Rochelle that probation plays a very active part in, and I know there's discussions going on, to try to create maybe a model in our county court to start dealing, with the felony cases, that might adopt the same model that Judge Rice has down there in New Rochelle. But I would suggest that you take a look at that program that he's developed down there. It's an excellent program with a lot of probation involvement.
Yeah, so our office actually did partner with Judge Rice from the very beginning when he was trying to develop his part. And I agree that at the developmental stage, all state probation should definitely be at the table. And when we get to those stages, we do plan on incorporating, and probation is key to the functioning of these emerging adult parts. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And particularly in our youth parts. So in the city, the idea and the way we first launched our youth parts, probation was present in our youth parts in each of the counties. And then there was a little hiccup. So I would say that we are supporting and advocating for that again. And in some parts, probation has been coming back to those parts. But I agree 100% that probation is a key stakeholder that should be at the development, implementation, and operations of our youth parts and emerging adult parts and our UCAM parts.
Rosemary, a question. Is there anything north of Westchester?
Oh, yes. So Albany County has an emerging adult and UCAM track, Schenectady, Rochester, Erie. But again, in Erie, those are the city courts. So it's not the felony level courts. And we have them in the 10th JD as well. And there's some under development. When I say under development, there's been an announced, expressed interest. And so we're having preliminary meetings about it. And so we're not at the stage of like incorporating stakeholders, but definitely incorporating stakeholders is definitely, including particularly probation, is one of our initial steps.
And we, of course, encourage that, including probation as a stakeholder. We feel is extremely important, if not vital. Other discussion?
Is there, Frank, is there a representative from the New York City Probation Department on this commission?
There is not.
There's not this former commissioner and
No, then other than me, no. And in COPA, I don't know, is Alan there yet? Because I don't think New York City has been participating in COPA.
COPA President Tim Davidian and
Oh yeah, Tim. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Right, I focused on Alan and not you. So Tim is right. New York City Probation.
New York City has been tangentially participating. They'll attend a random meeting, but there's no steady. Definitely not like when you were there, Anna.
Yeah. That we hope that will change. So.
I have just a couple of comments I was thinking about listening to the discussion. And I'm assuming a lot of this discussion is stemming from the research on brain development and, treating these younger age groups when their brain's not fully developed till they're 24, 25 years of age, which adds up and makes sense. So with that assumption, I guess I would also, advocate for smaller counties to keep that in mind, as typically they have much more limited resources and options available for services and programs for all age groups, not to mention a specific targeted age group. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I'm sitting here thinking about is youthful offender status, which of course we all know is granted at time of sentencing, vacates the conviction and makes it an adjudication. Is that something to consider? Because right now it was 16, 17, 18. Now the 16 and 17-year-olds primarily fall under the RTA, which I guess they can still get YO status. But now it's primarily going to be an 18-year-old, but maybe we expand that somehow to 19, 20, 21, whatever. And I don't know if that's a good idea, a bad idea. But it's just a thought that came to my mind. If we're talking about changing the way we're doing business with a certain age group, maybe we look at expanding the YO status somehow. Those are my thoughts on that subject.
I think there is a current proposed legislation for that, Joe. I think I've heard from some advocates in the city.
I haven't seen or heard anything on it yet, so
I'll send you whatever I have.
I think there was a one-house bill. Maybe it might have been in the assembly.
Yeah.
Proposing that. I remember I go in and out. I remember reading something, that was being proposed, and I think it was coming out of the assembly.
Do we think it'll fly? Do we think, or we're not sure?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything, and I haven't heard that there was a sponsor coming up, in the Senate, for it. So.
And I don't have any opinion because I haven't thought much about it, if it's a good idea or not, but it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it would seem to make sense, since the research is saying, that basically, we should be using a different model on them, and we should also, be considering, the possibility of, giving them a bite at the apple, that if they did something, it could be, it could be sealed,
Right.
and not be held against them. I don't know if you would be able to get legislation to bring it up to age 24, but you might be able to get it to 21.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there was a change to the sealing statute. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. Basically, anyone who was denied YO and a certain time period passes, they could then move to seal, even on a violent conviction, a violent felony conviction, they could get their case sealed or apply for it if they were denied YO previously, later on in life. But I mean, it's a great idea. I'm not sure it's the right political time
Right.
to be. I mean, as you're probably all aware that there are attacks on the RTA statute that are currently being discussed. So I love the idea from my friend from was that Watertown? Is that
sir.
Clayton? I was in Clayton in September. What a beautiful place.
It is beautiful, actually, in the summertime. Not so much now.
Matt, if I could.
Yeah, I just want to open up the discussion for, non-commission members at this time.
There is, Rocco, there is legislation. The Assembly version is 5293. The Senate version is 4330, called the Youth Justice and Opportunities Act, which would actually create a new category called a young adult, and would also extend YO protection to through age 25.
Right.
Presumptively, with the only exception from what my reading is, would be, I think it's rape 1 and any 8 felonies. Personally, I think that adds some areas of concern because you're including a lot of violent felonies that would be presumptive YOs. But it is a by-house bill that was introduced, I believe, back in February.
Has it been voted on?
No, it was referred to, I believe it was referred to codes, and it hasn't moved.
Yeah, there's been no movement, Judge. I haven't heard anything. And for that reason, maybe, Tim, because it may be too broad,
Right. Yeah.
and it may be hard to sell, especially under the, as Judge Zayas has said, under the, current, atmosphere of what's going on up in Albany with the discussions about, the Bail Reform Act and also the, raise the age legislation.
I would agree, Rocco. I think you're 100% right.
I think it just might be a little bit too much for them to take on this session. It might have a better shot, in the next session.
Maybe after the election.
Right.
Yeah. So Matt, I don't know if you want to, how you want to proceed on this, if you want to, or think about it or whatever, but in terms of creating a group to study this issue within probation and, maybe do a scan of what's happening in each county, and the data, and then what are recommendations from OPCA or something. I don't,
Yeah, but one of the recommendations we can make, Anna, as a commission, is making a suggestion to the probation field, that we should be looking, at this population,
Yeah.
And re-examining how we're supervising and what programs, we're offering to that age population. I mean, it can't hurt, and we can take a positive, step forward in acknowledging that, we may need to change, how we're doing things a little bit in dealing with this younger population.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be up for that.
Yeah, we don't need legislation to do something like that. We just need to have a lot of discussions, amongst ourselves, and maybe even some presentations, Tim.
Right. That's
up
what
at our annual conference, and talking about, some of these models that are out there and why maybe we should be doing these things.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make sure if anybody else had any comments they want to make. Okay. Well, thank you, Anna. It certainly is something I think OPCA and DCGS as a larger agency is interested in looking at. And we can work in coordination and collaboration with the commission. Rocco had mentioned some ideas about how we move forward, but I would like to have, further discussion with some commission members about what that plan would look like. So I don't know if COPA would be part of that, or if even POA would be interested in being part of that. But I do think at this kind of initial cut, I certainly think there's interest, Anna, in looking at this issue and then developing a kind of a coordinated response in working with probation departments statewide.
Yeah, and also just, I know he may not be there yet, but Jeff Butts has been a leading researcher on this also. So we're very lucky to have him as part of this commission.
His ears were ringing. Here he comes. He's just stepping in on it.
Oh, he is he? There you go.
So we're going to give Jeff a minute to.
I would also agree too, I mean, regardless of whether you're from a larger jurisdiction or a smaller jurisdiction, it's really how probation department is supervised and approach this population once they become involved, right? So I think that could be something of a good focus for how we plan to address this together.
Jeff, I don't want to just say you're on, but I just want to bring you up to speed about what the conversation was, which was number five on our list, supervising the 18 to 24-year-old probation population. Hannah had raised, the emerging adults issue and we heard from OCA talk about the creation of some OCA emerging adult parts or emerging adult courts. So it certainly is an issue that's out there, and the importance of, from my perspective, of probation's involvement as a stakeholder in the creation and the running of all those courts. Anna, right as you probably were walking down the hallway, said, "Is Dr. Butts there?" Because he's done a lot of research around the population. If you don't mind first introducing yourself.
Jeffrey Butts from John Jay College.
And if you had any thoughts, or if you want to try to get your thoughts together, we can give you.
Sure. I read through the material from Columbia, from the lab, and it reminds me of many things I've written about this. And the challenge, of course, I was thinking of the analogy, it's like reading about how to be healthy in your diet and your exercise. That's a different thing, though, than actually changing behavior. And by behavior, I mean the workers' behavior and how to interact with emerging adults. So it's an easy thing to have a framework. It's a whole nother thing to do the training and constant reflection required to change our own instincts about dealing with emerging adults.
Thank you. John's spot, but I appreciate your thoughts. I think the conclusion of this was that we are going to do some follow-up work on this issue. I know that Teresa's going to be talking later about a work group that she has going with probation involvement on the emerging adult, the 18 to 24-year-old, mostly around those who are on probation for gun offenses. But I think that this is an issue that the commission, Rocco, had made some suggestions about working with probation departments, about informing them and possibly presenting to them at certain conferences. So I do think, as an initial cut, as I said, I think it's something that there is interest in, and I would like to follow up and really develop a plan to move forward with that. But I'll open it up to anybody else who wanted to comment on that before.
Frank, has the working group, the roster of the working group, been set up already, or are you seeking, or Anna, are you seeking people to be a part of that? I don't know if any member of my team is a part of that, but I'm sure that in our Office of Justice Initiatives, someone would love to be a part of that. I just volunteered you, Rosemary.
Definitely, absolutely.
Mickey Hendricks has been working on a lot of case processing issues in the court system, and I think she'd be great for that too. Particularly, she's going to be looking into probation, adult probation, but and problem solve. But she's been also involved in case processing and in the youth court, so.
Great, great. Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Mickey, and thank you, Rosemary, and Rosemary has been very active in some of our work groups already. So let me just take a minute to extend our appreciation to you, Judge, and to Rosemary for allowing OCA to be a pretty active partner with OPCA and DCJS and looking at not just this issue, but other issues across the probation spectrum. Any other comments before we close this item? I will just I guess my closing comment was I'll have something more concrete in terms of the next steps, and I'll put it out to commission members in January. No further comments? Okay.
Thank you, Matt. So moving on to agenda item number 6, which speaks about focal issues. Teresa is going to provide an update on 2 of the work groups that are currently going on, supervising young people with guns, as well as the youth detention that is happening. So, Teresa, take it away.
Okay, I'll start with an update for the commission on the youth guns work group that we've convened for almost a year now. In January, I provided some preliminary information about our initial meetings. June, I provided initial information. A lot has happened since June. So thanks again to Rosemary for participating from the Office of the Court Administration perspective, to Anna for participating with just the depth and breadth of knowledge that you have and sharing that to our work group. Also, we have representation from the director of Onondaga Probation in our small and mighty group, as well as the Office for the Prevention of Gun Violence, and several of us from OPCA are parts of that conversation. So the Office for the Prevention of Gun Violence. I put Tom and Damon both into that group. Because one of our offices here at DCJS has been redesigned a little bit. But nonetheless, our objective for that group remains to focus on strategies that we can share across youth justice serving stakeholder systems, and of course the probation field, that promote safely maintaining youth in our communities and elevate the most effective practices for doing that. So since I last talked about this in June, as I said, a lot has happened. So on the issue of really building collaborations with stakeholders, Rosemary has been a gift in connecting us with OCA. Anna and I were able in September to record some trainings for the Office of Justice Initiatives with regard to youth part. We also covered what is voluntary assessment and case planning services performed by probation in the youth parts, what is the difference between that and pretrial services in that criminal court, as well as what's the removal process to probation intake look like, and demystifying probation intake just a little bit for those judges. Anything, Anna and Rosemary, you want to add to the September project?
So if I may, I will just add, it's not just a project. I don't want you to underestimate the impact of the videos you train. So Judge Zayas, these are the training videos we're revamping for certification purposes for our youth part judges and our accessible magistrates to become certified to serve in those capacities. So these will live on our website as the mandatory training video, this component to comply with the CPL statutorily mandated training. So we're offering it hopefully very soon. We're still editing the videos. So we will share them with leadership, Judge Zayas, when they're really finally ready. But they will impact all our existing judges as well, because we're asking that they see them as well, since the last iteration of videos was from 2018. So that was the September project. And I just want to echo before things change on to how wonderful it is and has been to collaborate with Anna and Teresa and with probation in general. From our office, you're just always willing to pick up the phone, join a Teams and email string to address an issue that's urgent at the moment or a long-term goal. So I truly appreciate our collaborative relationship.
Yeah, as do we, Rosemary. It's been really terrific. And then in October, Anna and I brought together with Jen Cox from my team and 3 probation jurisdictions to the in-person Youth Justice Summit in Terrytown, a workshop on youth parts. Again, talking about the role of probation in youth parts and those 3 jurisdictions, which by the way included Niagara, Erie, and Westchester counties. Thank you, Rocco, for making your staff available to come over to Terrytown to be part of that workshop, but spoke to those judges in attendance at the conference about how voluntary assessment and case planning services is happening in those jurisdictions to help provide a model of what it can look like, how it functions well. That panel also spoke about how removals can function well in those jurisdictions. So it was a great discussion, and we're really grateful for the opportunity, Rosemary, to be able to connect practitioners from probation with your judges in the audience. And there was a lot of conversation that came from that, so we appreciate it.
It was really wonderful. The judges, your presentation was well received, and the feedback we've gotten from the judges in attendance was really great. Thank you.
Anna, anything you want to add?
No, I think you guys covered it all. It was great.
Terrific. So another place where we were able to kind of build off the momentum of that work group to connect with other stakeholders is between probation and SNUG programs. In the summer, a couple of our staff at OPCA, Kelly Thompson and Amy Buchanan, were able to develop some very brief training content, which has been embedded into the SNUG basic training. That's not the right word for it, but for new SNUG outreach workers, they attend a primary training course. So we were able to provide some content to help SNUG workers understand what probation is, what probation does, as part of their primary training content. In addition to that, we proposed and were accepted to speak about modern probation in the November SNUG conference that happened here in Albany. So 3 of us from OPCA had a nice audience for the last day of that conference to be able to talk about, not only clarifying what probation is, how it's not parole and other things, but how SNUG organizations can partner with probation in a variety of ways, to engage clients at the front end of the system, to work with clients on what exactly their case plan might be, how to help mutual clients to really succeed. And we had some good conversations there, went right up to overtime on that workshop. So a couple of great things have come in partnering probation systems with the SNUG services in our communities as well. In addition to that, we've been able to, let me see what else I've got going on. We've been able to share best practice strategies on the probation side. A couple of our staff, again, Kelly and Amy, brought 3 probation departments that we believe are doing good work in supervising highest risk gun involved cases, and brought them to speak about their 3 models at the New York State Probation Officers Association conference. Thank you, Joe, for accepting our workshop proposal. That brought together the Utica Teen Accountability Court model, as well as practices out of Niagara Probation and Rensselaer Probation. And they were able to share with other probation practitioners in attendance at that conference some of the strategies that they've seen success with in working with those highest risk young people on probation. So that was another great opportunity born out of that. One of the other areas that we were continuing to talk about in the work group that we at OPCA felt could benefit from some clarification was around the use of electronic monitoring. So not only as an alternative to detention, but as a supervision strategy. And so our office, Kelly Thompson, compiled a director's memorandum, which got issued about 6 weeks ago, I think, which provided clarification to probation offices about the system point, which also sometimes is confusing because we address both family court and criminal court system points for young people. So the family court side of the system, as well as the youth part side of the system, and the applicable law, regulation, or other guidance that has come out of our court in an effort, again, to help clarify what the guiding mandates are around various system points and the use of electronic monitoring by probation departments. So that went out, I think, in early November. And we're continuing to explore in that work group additional mechanisms for collaborating with other credible messenger models and probation systems. So we're still refining what remaining objectives we have for 2026 and how long we want to continue our conversations. But some of the areas that continue to emerge are, not only connecting with other credible messenger models that exist throughout the state and how they might fit into some probation supervision models like what Anna had implemented in New York City with ARCHES and ACE, et cetera. And we did spend considerable time in the work group walking through those models. Anna shared some of the process that led up to implementation and how they engaged vendors in New York City to participate with the probation department in delivering those models. But some other areas that have been on our mind are also whether or not there's work to do. And Rosemary, this might be something for you to keep thinking about as we meet. We're together again next week, so I won't spend too much time on it here. But is there a place to work more with OCA on the family court side of the system around this topic? We've done some great stuff on the youth part side and are appreciative of that. And is there work to do on family court? So to be continued as early as next week in our work group. So any other insights that others might want to share or things we might want to be considering?
Two things I just want to highlight from what Teresa just talked about. It does sound like a very busy work group, Teresa. A lot of things going on there. But two things I do want to highlight. One is Teresa talked about a presentation about what is modern probation. And I think that's something that, our office is really trying to focus on. And I think in collaboration with the probation departments, that the probation department today is not the probation department of even 15 years ago. It's no longer about condition compliance focused kind of supervision. It is more about client engagement, working with people to make a positive change in their lives. So that's really one of the messages at our core that we want to get out to the general public, because people, again, they have a hard time distinguishing between probation and parole. And at that level, sometimes probation is not reflected in the best light. So we're really trying to get out in front of that to really talk about what does probation look like in 2025? And because it's not the same probation that you had, in 2010 or 2000. So that's an important piece, and that was a great kickoff that Teresa's unit or OPCA. The other thing is the work with Teresa touched on the SNUG presentation at.
No, it was the SNUG conference.
SNUG conference, that's right. So I've been to too many. The SNUG conference in November. Out of that, Lauren, kind of, because we recognize the importance of the SNUG workers in the community. we are now going to be setting up some kind of regional meetings between probation practitioners, those probation officers who are doing the work, and working collaboratively with the SNUG people in their communities. We're going to be, setting up some regional kind of meet and greet, because I do think there's a lot of, there's more common ground that we can find with SNUG workers than there is differences. And so we really want to continue to build that trust and build that relationship between the probation officers who are doing the work with the SNUG workers who are doing similar work, are looking for similar outcomes. So that's born out of that training, and we're lucky enough to have David Baycoat, who oversees the SNUG, and David and I are working together to try to facilitate those meetings in different parts of New York State. So thank you.
Matt, can I mention though too that I think it's important to look at some of the models we have in the community-based programming for gun-involved individuals, youth specifically. We have a great program down in New York City through the Osborne Association that the Bronx district attorneys do the referrals to. It's their BOGAP program, and it's something to look at to see if there's something that could be replicated through other perhaps district attorney's office or whatnot. It's a good conversation to have because it really does hit that emerging adult population. That is their main focus. And this specific program that I'm talking about is really about just possession, but it could look at something even broader. It's not when a gun is used in a commission of crime, but just being found on a person and it being illegally held. So I just wanted to bring that out there because those are really programs that are very intensive, but seem to on the surface be very valuable.
Thank you, Nicole. I've had the opportunity to go down to BOGAP and meet with the program reps down there, and it is a great program. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
And I just wanted to tell you in Westchester, it's been hit or miss in working with the SNUG people. I mean, we've had a little bit of a relationship with the group out of Mount Vernon, but we've had, difficulties in really connecting, with people in Yonkers. They haven't been warm and fuzzy towards, towards probation, being involved in some of their operations. So I think we need to really look into that as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's the point of getting departments and the SNUG reps together, Rocco. I appreciate it. I think what you'll find is some really are involved in SNUG. Probation departments are involved in SNUG, have good things to say about the collaborative work they do together. Then you'll have departments that are really struggling, and then you'll have most of the departments in the middle with a hit or miss kind of relationship.
Right. So yeah, I know we reached out several times to them, and it just doesn't seem to be a willingness to want to work with probation. So I think we got to.
Well, I know where my first stop will be, Rocco. My first stop in that regional collaboration, building those relationships will be down in Westchester. So I'll be reaching out. But I appreciate you.
Okay, good.
Appreciate you bringing it up.
You can swing by Orange on either way down or
back. Yeah, I think that's the purpose of what we're trying to do is trying to, I think if SNUG was in the room, they may be having the same kind of feelings towards probation. So we really want to bring those two parties together because what we're all trying to do is the same thing, is to change their lives and keep guns out of their hands and bring them into be part of a positive community setting. So I think bringing the two parties together are really going to focus on what our commonalities are and build some practice that we can improve those relationships.
Yeah, Matt, I want to emphasize what you're saying because when we in Rocco, kind of the same situation, we had to do a lot of work when we started our Arches program, and even more when we started hiring directly credible messenger mentors or people with lived experience in the department, because those folks actually who've turned their lives around and have a different perspective now, etc., may have had experiences with probation in their youth, which is the probation of old, Matt, that you're referring to, and that's their frame of reference. And to overcome that kind of mindset that they have, it will take a little time, but it can be done, certainly. And allowing for that, the airing of that mutual mistrust kind of thing, because the probation officers also, get worried that, the folks in the community will be kind of against them because they're probation and will side with the kids and so on and so forth. And having a lot of onboarding, a lot of joint, we had quarterly meetings with all our providers all the time so that things like that could be aired, a retreat once a year, that kind of stuff, because it's inevitable that there will be some conflict, which is a good thing too, like to be able to, and because that will build the trust ultimately, when people have to deal with difficult scenarios. And it all shouldn't be rosy because these are complicated young people and complicated matters, and that it's all good.
Two things. One is, you mentioned BOGAP, and my team's actually evaluating BOGAP with a federal grant that amazingly has not been taken away yet. So we're hoping to finish up that project at some point. And the other is, maybe I don't need to say this because you're all very aware, but I've done a lot of work on these credible messenger type programs, and I always portray the need for collaboration and coordination as like multiple pyramids with bridges at the very top. But you want to be respectful of the asset that these programs provide. And part of that asset depends on probationers and people in the community and young people at risk of becoming probationers perceiving the distance between that program and probation and police and the court system. I was on a project once in Chicago, and the workers were telling me whenever something was happening in the community and they were feeling like they were making contact, they just knew that CPD, police officers, would undermine them by rolling up on scene in patrol cars. Because as soon as they did that, the young people in the neighborhood would think that the workers were tied into the system and no longer had trust. So you don't want to have them operate in parallel tracks and never communicate, but you also don't want to be so closely coordinated that the neighborhood starts to think of those workers as part of the system.
I think that's the rub. That's the friction between the two, between probation and the snug workers. I think that's where, and the perception of, which I think it's a reality too. They need to keep their distance from that, but there does that, but they do need to be talking. They do need to have a relationship that's positive and with the same goal in mind. So that's, as we move forward, that's it. But that's a great way to put it, Jeff. I appreciate that input, because I do think that sums up maybe some of the issues that the two parties are having.
Any other feedback on item 6A?
Okay.
Here we go. We move on to
I'll
6B.
move on. All right, so the second work group that's been meeting for about the same period of time, almost a year now, is around youth detention. So updates for the last few months. Matt keeps saying to me, Teresa, what does probation have to do with detention in New York State? And I'm still working on drawing a map. It's not done yet. And my response is, it's very complicated. And I think that's evident to the Probation Commission because it's been a topic of conversation for several years now. And that was really the impetus for us convening the work group to have conversations more pointed about the role of probation in the youth detention system. So we have been meeting for many months now. Included in this work group are two individuals from the Office of Children and Family Services with responsibility for state oversight of youth detention facilities, and that's Nina Alador and Damian Pratt. Also included are 4 jurisdictions from across the state with a mixture of county representatives. So, for example, in Cattaraugus County, we have the Director of Probation as part of the work group, but also someone from their local DSS, the commissioner from local DSS, as well as their Youth Bureau Director. From Monroe County, we have the probation director, as well as their Monroe County Detention Director, because they have a facility in Rochester, as well as their Juvenile Justice Coordinator, which is kind of a bridge person between the county agencies. And then in Warren County, we have the probation director. And in Westchester County, we have Mary Frisello and Rocco, because Westchester has a somewhat unique role as a probation department that also, is the right word administer or operate the detention facility, Rocco? Do you administer or operate it?
We administer it. We contract, to have the day-to-day operations run, but we oversee it. We're responsible for it.
Yes, thank you. So the role of probation can be varied, right? It can be anything from that exists in Westchester of overseeing the contractor who runs detention services for young people, to that of, Warren County, where the probation director gets called in to help solve detention related problems as they arise. And we know that in some jurisdictions, in many jurisdictions, probation has no role in any of the detention discussions or responsibilities. So we've been continuing to spend time talking through how to solve some of the tension points in the youth detention processes. And I believe today, OCFS was over at one of the statewide COPA meetings.
They'll be there at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
We moved the meeting to the afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you. Because one of our objectives was to, again, build collaborative dialogue. And OCFS was, eager to talk to probation directors when there's a role in probation to help have dialogue that solves some of those problems or areas of congestion or areas of whatever the concern may be. So thank you for inviting OCFS to meet with COPA today to maybe begin, building relationships that facilitate those conversations to happen where they haven't already happened. So that's been one of the outgrowths of this, is that we've been able to build more connections between probation personnel and the Office of Children and Family Services. In that group, we've also talked about alternatives to detention, particularly where probation departments have a role in offering to the court alternatives to detention on the family court side of the system, and even delivering alternative to detention programming. The work group has met with some unique models to think about the applicability of those models in other jurisdictions across the state. We also have talked about case processing topics. So OCFS has walked through kind of the life of a case and how cases come to detention, where probation may be called to respond to a detention request or issue, and it has illuminated some case processing areas where various stakeholders can impact the availability of detention beds by being attentive to the movement of a case. And one of particular interest to probation departments may be advocating with the judiciary when kids are detained, for example, advocating with the judiciary to expedite a predispositional investigation so that the case can move more quickly to disposition. In some jurisdictions, this is common practice, we've heard, whereas in other jurisdictions, it's a totally foreign consideration for probation to talk with the judge about, shortening that timeline. In some jurisdictions, it's standard practice, for example, when a young person is detained, that they do the PDI in 14 days so that they can, in 2 weeks, move to disposition and move that young person on to placement if that's going to be their disposition or whatever other outcome of the case might happen. So lots of interesting conversations. And ultimately, my hope is that building connections between probation administration and OCFS can continue to highlight areas where those clogs in the detention system can be alleviated, whether it's, you know, a detention build conversation, which we know we have some more detention building happening. Monroe will open their facility, we know, which is transitioning from a capacity of 31 to 74 beds. CFS expects Monroe to open that in January. We know Rocco's team is very busy building a facility that will be open in a couple of years. Anything you want to add about that, Rocco?
We're in the final design phases now, and hopefully we'll be going out to RFP for a construction, and we're hoping to break ground sometime probably in the fall. That'll be an 80-bed facility, brand new facility that we will be opening up. You know, so it will be probably about a 30-month construction period from the time they break ground. So you know, the cavalry is not over the hill yet, but they're approaching. That should be really helpful, especially in the 9th Judicial District, you know, where we're struggling right now.
Thanks, Rocco. So those are the topics, you know, talking about the availability of detention beds and how system actors can impact that by, you know, expediting case processing timelines to make beds available. The other thing that's come up recently is, you know, some of the impacts seen in Monroe County was talking about this a couple weeks ago. They opened a centralized arraignment part recently and believe that they're seeing a reduction in the use of detention beds because it is removing those young people that might be a police admission into detention for 2 to 3 days until they're arraigned. And the centralized arraignment part seems to be alleviating those very short stays for those kids that are being managed safely in the community. So centralized arraignment parts are potentially an important part of the conversation to support detention bed availability. And I don't know if OCA has an interest in joining the conversation at any point. But the invitation is open. I know we're inviting you to a lot of things today, but the invitation certainly is open for representation to join those discussions once a month to see if there's other areas we can impact.
Can I make a point, you know, when we're talking about case processing and trying to move cases, you know, quicker through the detention system, just be aware that, you know, when we talk about, you know, how probation has changed, detention has changed, you know, especially since raise the age, because right now we are seeing, you know, some very, very serious cases, you know, that are in our youth detention facilities. You know, judges, you know, to their, I mean, our family court judges, I know, and I can speak for Westchester and probably for the 9th Judicial District, do not put cream puffs in detention. Okay, we are now seeing, you know, a lot of, you know, homicide cases, you know, rapes, assault ones, you know, weapons offenses, you know, so, you know, that I think in a lot of ways the system is working that, you know, the judges are doing a great job in diverting cases and allowing probation to do diversion work, you know, on, you know, cases that they feel as though, you know, meet the criteria, you know, or you know, there's a risk level that they're willing to take and trying to keep, you know, that case out of detention and keeping them with the probation department and trying to do some really good diversion work that we're able to do. But, you know, when you're looking at moving cases quickly that are in detention right now, just be aware, you know, that the profile, you know, has changed tremendously, you know, because you also now have, you know, the 16 and 17-year-olds that are being processed through the criminal court too, that are being held as AOs, you know, so they don't move. They may not be able to move as quickly as some of the other cases, you know, so in a roundabout way, you know, I've always disagreed, with OCFS and their perception that judges are just putting, kids in detention that don't belong in detention. That is so far from the truth that, it's just sad that sometimes that comment is made, because our family court judges do a great job, at triaging these cases and making those decisions. And I would say that our judges, will really take a chance in putting a kid that might be on the margin in the community before they would put him in detention. And they don't get that recognition.
Thank you, Rocco.
I would agree with Rocco. I would echo that sentiment too. I think we're in the 5th Judicial District here, and I know our judge here in Jefferson County, our family court judge, is fantastic at screening these. And both of we have 2 new judges this year, and it's been a learning curve for both of them. One of them has more cases than the other one, which is fine. But with that, I also wanted to come back to what Teresa made a comment about Damian Pratt, and I wanted to give him a shout out because we have found him to be very helpful recently. We've had, for some strange reason, a lot of need for some detention beds. We've had a lot of for a small county like Jefferson County, to have some really serious sex offenses and attempted murder cases. He's been great helping us trying to find a detention bed. This is kids that you cannot have in the community. And it's kind of like one of those, it's a no-brainer decision, but the bed availability has been the issue, and he's been helpful guiding us, finding a bed, whether it's, we've used Monroe, and we've used Erie, and we've used the jail youth pods at Cattaraugus County, as well as we got one in Oneida County Jail now. And he's been helping guide us through the interest of justice hearings and the paperwork, and even though they're extremely costly per day, but and he's helping us move that process along. So I want to give Damian a shout out for that, and thank you. But I do agree that our judges are very good about, we don't put these small cases in detention. Those are days long gone. When we used to try and put a kid in non-secure detention, or even secure, either just for the night or a day, or just to give them a message or whatever. That doesn't happen anymore. In fact, when I've called looking for beds when I've called Hillbrook, which is in Onondaga, and they said, we have all our kids are high risk murder cases for the most part, and you want to put this kid in there, and yeah, it's the judge says so. So yeah, so I think the level of crimes are certainly escalating for sure.
Talking about Damien, it's nice having somebody up there that actually ran a facility, so he understands, the situations, that we're in, and that's why, since he's been up there, it's really been helpful to have Damien there. He's done a great job, and
Yeah.
we're on the phone with him every day because, like what he's doing for you, Joe, he's calling us down here to see if we have an empty bed that we might be able to take a kid from Erie County or Cattaraugus or wherever there is a need. We always try to help out if we have an empty bed to help a county out. But, it's a numbers game. This is what it comes down to. We just don't have the numbers. Hopefully when Monroe, opens up with their additional beds, and then we get our additional beds, hopefully that will kind of relieve some of the strain, right now in the system. But, that was one of the shortcomings of the Raise the Age legislation. There wasn't enough time, to really prepare, for having the 16 and 17-year-olds moving from the adult correctional system into the juvenile system. Just not enough beds. It's a numbers game.
Yep. And I'm amazed that Damien is receptive as he is able to be, because I know how busy the guy is, and he still makes the time and takes the time to respond to emails and phone calls, and he's super good about that. And on the other note about moving kids through this process, we're spending, the kid that we have in Oneida or these jail facilities, they're costing like $1,400 a day to keep these kids. So we don't want to keep them there any longer than we have to either. So, I mean, when our county's paying for that, that's a lot of money. And so getting these kids services and programs and whatever they need quicker is certainly advantageous and a cost saving measure. So we're going to push them as quickly as we can.
Teresa, has there been a study of the, or an analysis of the growth, the population growth in detention facilities pre-RTA and post-RTA? Do you know what the answer to that is? I mean, obviously, as Rocco said, you have to take into consideration that 16 and 17-year-olds when we're going into the adult facilities. But if you look at the 16 and 17-year-olds in the adult facilities pre-RTA, and you add those to the ones in detention for pre-RTA, and now what it's like post-RTA, is there any analysis of that out there?
You know, I don't know if there is. I think if there was, it would fall under the purview of OCFS to pursue an analysis. And it would probably require a combination of the jail census data that DCJS holds compared to the detention data that OCFS holds. I can say that OCFS on their public website has really interesting data sets. It's not an analysis of pre-post raise the age, but they put up quarterly detention volumes and they put them up pretty quickly, like within a month or two after the conclusion of each quarter of the year. So it's pretty contemporary data, and they split the data out not only by age, but by offense. So you can see how many JOs and AOs and VTL misdemeanants that are 16 and 17-year-olds are being held in detention facilities on that OCFS oversees. So you can see the volumes. I don't know if there's been an analysis yet, but I can certainly ask OCFS if they've looked at that.
Yeah, but you also have to look at the number of kids that are still being held, you know, in adult facilities where counties have gotten waivers, you know, because they don't have any beds. We don't have beds available, that they're allowing, you know, kids to be held in those facilities. So you have to look at that too. You just can't look at the numbers in the juvenile detention facilities.
Yes.
One of the things that I really appreciate the Probation Commission for is that, you know, you have different perspectives from different disciplines in the membership. So if the commission is, you know, would like movement in one way or the other, or asking for us to, you know, get behind a study, then that's, you know, the commission can make that recommendation.
I mean, I think it's a probably I mean, maybe it's beyond our purview because of the question that Teresa raised initially, which is detention. What does that have to do with probation? But maybe it's not for this commission to do, but that somebody should be doing that study. It'd be good to know, given some of the rhetoric that's out there about RTA, whether or not, I mean, I agree completely with Rocco that my experience is that judges are only detaining the kids for really charged with really serious, violent things. But I know that in New York City, for example, we recently visited the juvenile detention facility, and they're at capacity in the two that exist in New York City. We've been Mickey Hendricks, who's on this meeting, has been actively involved with that. So to the extent, Teresa, you were asking whether OCA is interested in being part of the discussion regarding detention, I volunteer my friend Mickey Hendricks. I don't know if you're already a part of that, Mickey, but can you just tell the folks what we've been doing with respect to the detention facilities in New York City?
Sure, thanks, Judge. I work primarily on case management processing, so I'm not involved in as much in the initial decision for the judges about whether or not the youth should be detained in a custodial setting. But what we've been analyzing is the length of stay, which necessarily will impact availability of beds. If we can shorten the length of these cases and how long it takes to get them processed completely. So we have brought all but one so far county to the youth facilities to meet with their staff, even meet with some of the young people to understand what impact it has to have a case delayed beyond a year. And we all know that there are some youth that are waiting in pretrial detention 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We saw one young person there for 5, which is unconscionable. So even if that young person is going to receive a sentence that continues that detention, the pretrial detention stage should never be that long. And so just in a nutshell, the things that we're working on is, number one, now educating those people in the youth part, both OCA and we're hoping with the stakeholders as well, to understand how important it is for the young person to have an offer on the case, or at least a firm recommendation of what the outcome, what the prosecutor believes the outcome should be, relatively soon, meaning a matter of months. We have cases where it's a year and a half old before there's ever any conversation about a disposition or about an offer. At least that's in the city area. We also recognize that there are cases that are on a path for YO treatment or programming. And so the opportunities for that young person to get released from detention, to work off or hope towards a YO result should stay in the youth part. The cases that involve the much more serious charges where this is it's going to be an incarceratory sentence or, at a dispo or a plea or at a trial, that we are removing those cases from the primary youth parts and placing them before a youth certified judge who is going to move that case expeditiously through the process. A lot of them are not just serious charges, but they're gang related and often have multiple defendants, sometimes with adults on them as well. And so that complicates the way the case is moving and really makes it more difficult to move efficiently. So we're doing an education about how to move the cases quicker by engaging in disposition related conversations far sooner. We are talking about the frequency with which need to be brought in to see the judge, because maintaining that contact with the youth is crucial to continuing the youth's engagement on the case, the youth's engagement with mental health services while in custody, and simply just engagement with their lawyers as well. And then the third component is completely from the judge's side, which is to make sure that those cases that are going to go to plea or trial without the YO opportunity, that those cases get moved way more efficiently. And so being a part of any conversations that involves probation, whether that be for pretrial supervision or what a post-trial disposition would look like, I think allowing myself to be educated more on probation's role there and be included in these conversations would be great for me.
Thank you.
Any other comments under that? DOA or COPA?
It was a pretty robust conversation.
Yep. I would just ask, a great conversation, great discussion, but if there is, in the end, that as a commission, we want to do something that one of the commission members offers that up.
The only other comment I would make is, Judge, you made the comment of you weren't quite sure of the purview and what probation's involvement is. My comment is that in my department in Jefferson County, it directly impacts us when a youth gets remanded into a detention facility, because then there are responsibility to transport them. Our sheriff's office does not do that, and we have to find the bed. And there have been numerous times, and I think the commission's aware of this in our recent history, that we've had to house a kid in a hotel room with 2 probation officers 24/7, which is really that's beyond the scope of what we should be doing and what we're trained to do for sure. And in my opinion, is certainly a recipe for a liability issue. And I think everybody would agree with that. So that's the dilemma on our end that we are often faced with, because we don't have the luxury, and if I use that word in quotes, of having a detention bed in our catchment area, much less in our county. And we haven't been able to contract with anybody per se. And I will say, and again, and I've said it before, Westchester has been great in trying to bail us out of situations before, and they have many times. But there have been the occasions when we've been stuck watching a youth with 24/7 couple, 2 or 3 probation officers throughout the night and days until we get back into court.
And Joe, I just want to highlight, you named your involvement in a bunch of transports to Cattaraugus, to different places around the state. I just want to highlight that that's 2 probation officers who are doing that transport, taking them out of what we would consider normal probation work, really outside the scope of their job duties, to bring those juveniles to a detention bed somewhere in the state.
And for us from here in Watertown to travel to Westchester, it's 5 hours each way. And again, I'm not in Albany today because we're under a winter storm warning and we've had a lot of snow, and traveling this time of year anywhere in this county, much less the state, can be treacherous.
Right.
So, I mean, whether we're doing it or the sheriff's office, I guess it could be treacherous anyway. But somebody's got to do it.
Thank you.
That concludes the work groups.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Great job.
Well, I'll move on to 6C. And
Yeah, so probation officer recruitment and retention update.
Hey, this is you. You can chime in on this if you want.
Rocklight, you're not muted. I don't know if you're saying something to.
No, I was saying I got Jimmy here. You know, we I think I mentioned at the last meeting, we've been fairly active, and we're trying to get around and do some recruiting to get people to take the exam. Jim, you may want to bring the commission up a little bit on what we're doing here.
Yeah, happy to do that. Jim Duquesne, Chief Administrator, for those that don't know. So we've, for the last few years, we've really increased our efforts in recruitment, specifically to try to get some additional individuals interested in taking the test and becoming probation officers. A big part of that is we've developed a very robust internship program. We basically have between 5 to 8 interns every semester and the summer program. So in the spring, the fall, and the summer, we have an internship program that usually is between 5 to 8 college students that come in an internship for about 6 weeks. I think it is 8 weeks. Yeah. So that's part of it. We joined Handshake, which is the system that the colleges use for promoting employment and promoting internships. So we became members of that. We participate in almost every single program, career fairs and internship programs that the colleges put on. We send representatives there to have a table, to talk to the different students that are interested, talk to them about the internship opportunities, and also tell them about any employment or professional opportunities that we might have coming up in the court. So that's been a big help for us. Unlike, I've had numerous conversations with other directors in the state that indicate that they've had a very hard time even getting people to take the test. And oftentimes they're having to hire from off the street, basically, because they don't have a list to hire from. We've been fortunate where we've had a relatively good number of people take the test and pass the test and be eligible for hire here in Westchester. We just completed an academy this year where we had 15 people get through it, and we were able to hire that many for this year. So far it's working out. We intend to continue that effort, and hopefully we can stay a little bit in front of it. But it has been very challenging, especially with the Tier 6, as we all know, with the not being able to retire until 63, is it, or 64? It's been somewhat challenging competing against police departments and corrections where they don't have that level of commitment, I'll call it, I guess, to stay that long.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it. So across the state, I think there's a challenge for law enforcement and certainly probation in terms of recruiting professionals. And once you've recruited them, keeping them. So, OPCA has kind of made it one of its goals for this year to begin to work with departments in terms of helping recruit and retain professionals. And probation's even a little bit more challenging given the need for a four-year degree against what Jimmy had just talked about. Most correctional agencies and police departments don't require that four-year degree. Probation does. So the update is there's not much of an update. We started this to look at this issue in the spring of last year. It kind of got put on the back burner because of other competing interests. But I do want to keep it as a probation commission item to look for pockets like Westchester that are doing things to help recruit and retain qualified professionals. So I'm opening it up to the commission for discussion, for ideas, thoughts on how we can help, county probation or city probation departments recruit and retain good qualified professionals.
Well, I mean, at least in New York City, so much was contingent upon whatever collective bargaining agreement that the union could broker with the city, and it's always been seen as, I don't know, expensive, I guess. Like I, and the collective bargaining was not done with us in, like, we were in the room, but we could not negotiate. Only the Department of the labor folks in the city did the bargaining. And so I know that we had tried to do several things to incentivize, because the collective bargaining in our place kind of favored longevity rather than the young people, right? The newest probation officers, and that's who we were losing almost right away, because then they were also on the lists for corrections and for PD, and they pay more. And so it's really complicated. I don't know. I mean, I wish I had something like easy to say, but no.
Well, I think we would all hopefully agree that probation officers should have the same benefits that police, corrections.
I know they should, yeah.
Everybody else has. They should have 25-year retirement,
Yep.
and they should have 207C benefits.
Yep.
Like everybody else. And until that day comes,
Yep.
we're second-class citizens.
Yep.
So collectively, as a commission, is there something that we think we can do to help address this issue?
Well, and I think the 25-year retirement has to be a change. It's a statutory change, right? Or regulation change or something, right, Rocco?
Yeah, I think so.
I know we had lobbied for that through our intergov person, but I can ask her to see where it got bottlenecked. But I think legislation would be needed.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the cost with, they always talk about the cost, but I mean, right now you're looking at people who would need the 25-year retirement now are your tier 5s and your tier 6s, because the tier 4s are already there.
Right.
So you're looking at, costs that would be associated down the road, wouldn't even hit right now. So, it's not going to have an immediate fiscal impact, I believe, in a lot of jurisdictions if something like that was to happen. So
I kind of thought the 25-year was already out there, and that it was up to home rule was my understanding, but maybe that was only for tier 4s and not 5s and 6s. But I thought it was for everybody. I may be mistaken though.
well, the question is this: is it home rule for police and for corrections?
I don't think so. Yes, great point.
Or is there state law that says that they must have it? I think that's what we need to look at.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
And why should probation just be by home rule if everybody else is different?
We're preaching to the choir.
I think we need to look at them. Matt?
Open it up. Go there.
Just COPA membership should be aware of this already, but the commission may not be. This is a topic that's been on the agenda when Matt and I have spoken, and on the COPA agenda since I became president in July, and even before that. We are very concerned about recruitment and retention. We have just undergone a survey. We have heard back from 43 counties based on the, I'm going to call it, as a 59-year-old probation director, the graying of the probation staff. At this point, out of those 43 counties, we're talking about 1,300 probation officers. 2.5% of them are 25 or under. An additional 7.5% are under the age of 30. So there's only 10% probation officers that are under the age of 30. And when you look at the other end of the spectrum, there are 32% of the probation officers are over the age of 51. So it is a concern for directors for retention and for recruitment. I can only speak directly to Orange County, with the exception of a handful of people who have gone to other departments that had more flexible work schedules. We're losing all our people to police departments because they're saying, I'm doing the field work, I'm carrying a firearm, I'm carrying the other weapons, and I'm a tier 6 person, and I will be doing this job for 40 years so that I can retire at age 63, as opposed to I'll go to a police department and I'll be done at 45 and either gonna have a second career or enjoy my retirement for many, many years. I do think, speaking to the other directors and speaking to my own staff and other probation officers, 25 and out is a big issue. And Rocco, when you bring up the home rule piece, I think that's definitely a piece of it, because when we go to our county legislators and our county administrators and executives and say, boss, I can tell you what my numbers were 2 years ago. I need $1 million now and I need $250,000 a year after that. They were looking at me as much to say, okay, so how much staff would you like to get rid of? And how do you expect us to come up with that kind of money? I do think if we were to refocus on tier 6s, I think overnight those numbers significantly decrease. But, definitely something that COPA is considered on, and that we will look forward to continuing to work with Matt in OPCA and DCJS and the Probation Commission to see if we can't make that happen somehow.
Can you share that?
Absolutely. I COPA hasn't even seen this yet, but I will get it in the next couple of days.
When available.
I would really like to get the remaining 15 counties so I had everyone, but again, that's a sample size of 43 counties.
Matt, I would also like to mention on the recruitment end, and we've met down here in Region 4, with Jerry and John, about the 30 credits for the social sciences that is required in order to be eligible to be a probation officer, and getting that, waived. I know there's been a lot of conversation, but I just wanted to bring that up as a possibility of opening up, more people being able, to become probation officers that are limited right now because they may not have the 30 credits in the social sciences.
Thank you, Rocco. I know COPA has raised that issue. Also, I'm kind of waiting to see where the departments land on that issue. If it's a majority of departments that want to go that way, or if it's a majority of the departments that don't want to go that way. So it's been raised, Rocco. I know Jerry Cook is kind of leading the charge down there in that, but I'm working with Tim and the COPA membership to really kind of get my arms around how the membership feels about that.
Rocco, just so that you're aware, we did have we took a survey, polled people when we were in Syracuse in October. The feeling among the membership was that we would support the elimination of the 30 behavioral credit hours. And we're at the point right now where Bob Usey and I just need to draft a letter to Matt saying that we would support that change.
That would be great. I thought that's what I had read in, some of the minutes, but I didn't want to say anything Tim, I figured you would bring it up.
It's one less thing I have to talk about later on, because I can cross off my list.
Okay.
So in terms of OPCA and our work, we are, I have a feeling that, probation needs to be marketed better as a profession. And so part of that's telling the story of what probation does. So we will continue to work internally here at DCJS to try to push out probation as a profession and what the benefits are of working as in the probation field. I think Dr. Bus, we may have had some earlier conversations about, connecting with colleges and getting access to recently graduated or near graduated people to maybe push probation or introduce probation to those fields. So we are going to be doing, doing what we can at our end at the state level. But as Westchester pointed out, it really is kind of locally getting out there, working with, colleges, internships. We had an intern here at DCJS that was on a site visit down to Albany County Probation. Bill Connor said, "When are you graduating?" And she said, "In August." And he said, "Do you want a job?" Yeah, would you like to come in for an interview for a job? So those are kind of the benefits of internships. Because I do know that Albany County is using like Indeed and Monster and those things to try to recruit. And that gives you kind of a picture of the struggles that departments are having statewide about recruiting individuals for the probation profession. So anything OPCA can do to continue to assist departments in that area, that's our blueprint. Begin to tell, really hone in on telling the story of probation, market the profession, and help get access to some of those near or recently graduated.
Yeah, and I do have access to about 15,000 20-somethings on a regular basis. And one thing that occurs to me we could do as a commission, which wouldn't be a heavy lift, would be to organize a session of some kind that's informational, that we give students a sense of what the work is and the career possibilities, record it, do a decent job of putting together the video, and then having that available streaming on websites associated with the college so that more of them could see it. I just meet 22-year-olds all the time that talk to me, and their only dream is to be an attorney. And I always say, why?
Sorry, John. Thank you, Dr. Butts. I'll certainly note that and follow up. Any further discussion? All right, I'm going to kick it back over to Frank, who's going to talk about something not as exciting as Teresa was talking about, but I work in case management systems. So, right, floor is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Just to give the commission an update on where DCJS is as far as developing an RFP for a statewide single service multi-tenant system for probation departments. For the last 8 months, we've been meeting with field users across the state, as well as having internal DCJS meetings to talk about pretty much wants and needs when it comes to developing a new probation case management system. A couple of things that we have learned is that the probation case management system is very complex. And I think it needs to be, in a way, complex because it serves so many different functions. It has so many different capabilities. And part of the feedback that we have received especially from the field, is that they really want something that's a little bit simpler to use, a case management system that's not going to require them to enter data in several different locations in order to produce a specific report. But also something that's going to help them also in their daily work as probation officers. So I first wanted to thank all the field users who volunteered their time to be part of those work groups. It really enlightened us as far as some of the things that we talked about. And I also wanted to also thank the other offices within DCJS who have also worked with us to talk about our own wants and needs. OPCA, our Office of Justice Research and Performance, our ITS office, as well as our Office of Business Analysis as well. So we are at a point right now where we're starting next week. We're going to actually start building the RFP for this case management system, using all the information that we have obtained from the field internally within DCJS. And hopefully we can send it out publicly by the end of the second quarter, early third quarter of next year. So that's our goal, is to have an RFP developed and sent out for bids by the middle of next year, 2026. This will align well, we believe, with our own state contract with the current case management system, and we'll be able to make a very sound decision. Different vendors that come back with their responses. So that's all I have for the commission at this time. I just wanted to provide an update that we are working on it, and I think it's been very productive work over the last 7 or 8 months. I think we're in a good place right now. Does anyone have any questions for me or feedback at this time?
And to clarify, that would be to replace the catalyst which we currently use?
Be based on the vendor responses, yes. I mean, Catalyst is certainly welcome to provide their own bid when the RFP is sent out. So we'll certainly be objective when it comes that time.
And just, just kind of a point here is that at this time, each county and the city have their own contracts with the vendor Catalyst. And so what we're saying is we'll take that burden, that financial burden, off of the counties and have a statewide system. And we're not only the financial burden, but the burden of those who don't have a cloud-based Catalyst contract, where it lies in your kind of county servers. We're going to take all that kind of headache away. We're going to take control and possession of the contract with whatever vendor comes back through the RFP process, and have a statewide system that we hold, and it kind of alleviates some of that struggle that the counties or the city have in terms of handling that case management system. What we've done in consideration of that, as Frank put it, as we developed some work groups to get a lot of field response to what they need for or what they would like to have in a case management system. So eventually we are going to put an RFP out for a statewide case management system, recognizing that counties don't have to sign up for it. You can continue a contract, your existing contract with Catalyst. I would be surprised if they continue their CE product if half or 75% of their customers leave, or you can put an RFP out yourself. The only requirement we have under regulation is that the case management system that counties or the city uses has to be able to interface with the state systems that we have here at DCJS. So we're hoping all the counties come on board. We see the benefits for them, and I want to thank Frank and his work with that work group and moving that forward. Any questions, comments from the commission membership or anybody else? Okay.
There has been some discussion on, is there any pushback from counties? And this is just, I'm curious, from other counties across the state that, well, they're resistant to having a statewide system, managed system, whatever you want to call it, because they're afraid of, Big Brother watching, or, somebody at the state has access to all of my individual case records and notes and everything. Or is that not been an issue?
I have not heard from anybody with that. And in fact, and everybody on the commission knows, as the oversight agency, we have access to your records. We have the authority to come in and review records as the oversight agency. So nobody's raised that, Joe, in terms of us taking a peek, and I don't know. I haven't heard anything, Frank. I don't know if you've heard it.
No, I mean, nothing from Nothing in general, and actually nothing from the field user work group either. They haven't brought those concerns up during our meetings together.
And I wouldn't think there, well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, anytime we've had a critical incident, we send everything on anyway. So I mean, I'm not sure what the difference would be.
Just to make sure our position is clear, we're not developing a system for that purpose. We're not developing a system so we can have, we can be looking over your shoulder into your case files and case records. That's not, certainly not. We recognize from COPA's position where they came with the Association of Counties and sat down with our executive leadership to say, you know, our case management system is not working and the vendor's not responsive at this time. So we at that time made a decision to, you know, do what we thought was helping the probation field and develop, you know, putting out an RFP for a system that we would take control over.
Thank you. That was more of a curiosity.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else? Any feedback, comments, or questions?
I'm sorry, just to go back a little bit, maybe this is a question for Teresa, but I thought that with respect to youth detention, that there was funds in the executive budget. And I thought that the governor had made some references to it recently in some article I read. All of that money is not being spent, but was that money that was allocated for detention facilities or programs to which we might send a JO or an AO? Does anybody know? Because I thought there was some indication that there were some plans afoot to begin spending that. I mean, it's a big chunk of money that the state has been holding. It's RTA money, I thought.
It is, Judge. It's for both. It's actually for detention and for programming, you know, community programming. So it's all inclusive, I believe.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I think we move on from the probation case management system conversation, youth detention conversation, and move on to the pretrial item on the agenda.
Thank you, Frank. So just briefly on the pretrial 6E, I want to thank Carl and Judge Zayas very much for getting back to us so quickly and agreeing to be part of a work group that we had proposed, having OCAA rather be part of a work group that we proposed to have with pretrial services agency providers as well as a representative from DCJS and talk about some topics that have come through this system and how we can work better together and a better understanding. So we have our first work group scheduled for December 17th as a meet and greet. We currently have 4 individuals from OCA, 4 pretrial services agency individuals. Those are representing not only probation, but community-based organizations. We do have room for 1 or 2 more if the commission knows of anybody that they think would be helpful. We were really trying to get a sample from across the state. We don't have any in New York City because we know that CJA really has their own system that has been around for a very long time and been working pretty cohesively, but certainly we don't have, you know, if there's room for and something that we think that they would want to be part of this, we can definitely look at that. Also, the pretrial award letters did go out to the counties, the upstate counties in Long Island, and those went out November 21st, and I'm currently reviewing the overview spending plans from the counties just to get a general idea of what the money is being utilized for. So that's really where we are, but we're very excited. We have about 5 areas currently that we are looking at for our first meetings, specifically about training, paperwork, non-monetary conditions, and reporting they're rather large subject matters, but those are our beginning discussions, and I'm sure more will come up as we go. So I think Rosemary and Mickey, you're also on that
work group, and I thank you all in advance. We truly appreciate it.
Any questions from the membership? Any questions?
So moving on to item number 7, just as a reminder, the vacant probation commission position that is open. Vacant position is somebody who was a member of the community, has demonstrated an interest and involvement in the field of probation. So that's currently in the process of hoping to.
So the appointments.
The appointment process. Just want to give you all an update there. Agenda item 8. So this is for either POA and COPA to provide any updates for the commission. So perhaps I'd like to invite Tim Davidian from COPA if he has any updates for the commission. I do want to cross out some items too.
I want to thank Tim for coming today and making time in his schedule to talk to the commission and Alan, talk to the commission about any concerns you may have or good things.
Or both. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Matt. I want to really just start by saying that, COPA is even more than I thought it was when I first became a director. When COPA meets, it's just like when a commission meets, it's a dedicated group of individuals that really want probation to be successful. And, I owe a lot of my career to people like Alan Frisbee sitting next to me, and Bob Busey, and Scott Gluckert, and directors, and Rocco, of course, always. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I pick up the phone and call Rocco or Jimmy to ask a question. And it's really an honor and a privilege to have been selected as president of COPA. But what I found already very quickly in the last couple of months is the relationship that continues to improve with OPCA. When Matt was named director was right after we had finished our annual conference, and right away Matt and I were on the phone with each other. Matt has already spoke to COPA at our August and our October meetings. Matt also started a monthly meeting with myself and the POA president, just as a, hey, what's going on? What are we doing that's good? What do we need to work on? Where's our common ground? How do we move things forward? And those have been a combination of virtually and in person. As a matter of fact, Matt and I will be meeting at 3:30 this afternoon after the COPA meeting. And I think that's very helpful, because when we're all on the same page collectively with OCA, with OCFS, with the other pieces of DCJS, we're a lot more efficient and effective in what we do. And it's the only way we're going to really solve the problems and the challenges that face us all. So Matt, I want to thank you for that, because I think that's very important for us. We've already talked about things such as, the 30 hours of behavioral sciences, removing that from their criteria. We've already had conversations with, is there an appetite, and 2, is there actually a mechanism and a pathway for probation assistance in some jurisdictions to ultimately be able to achieve the status of a probation officer? We've talked about, in a lot of the smaller counties, there's concerns that there really is no plan for succession, as there's no H-10 provisions for deputy directors in those jurisdictions. So those are conversations Matt and I have already started to have. Thank you for facilitating the meeting with OCFS this afternoon. We will treat them well. But I think what happens sometimes, as we've already talked about detention this morning, is it's a very complicated and a very passionate issue. Joe has expanded upon, the issues in Jefferson County. Probation officers shouldn't be sitting with youth in detention in a hotel room for 2 and 3 weeks before Rocco can free a bed space. It's not within the job purview, really, and it's a liability for issues. And I think that that's a concern of a lot of directors, is that what ultimately happens on detention issues is the court has no alternative other than to put the person on electronic monitoring. And we know electronic monitoring is very passive, and response times are not what they need to be, because it's just physically impossible. So then it becomes an even greater liability for counties. And no one seems to have a problem in the media or on a defense bar saying, Well, probation had them on an electronic monitoring. How did this happen? Well, because the person is allowed to be in the community. That's how it happens, whether they have an electronic device or not. So, you know, we're looking very forward to that meeting with OCFS this afternoon. And I hope that that is the first step in some resolutions. I mean, we know that there are long-term resolutions coming. Monroe putting beds online, Rocco getting beds online, but we still need some more of that immediate. What are we doing now? Piece. And again, recruitment and retention, we've already discussed, but definitely issues that are concerns of not only directors, but of also POA and the members and probation officers throughout the state. And we look forward to continuing to work with OPCA and with the commission as we go forward.
Thanks, Tim. Joe, do you know if Dan is joining us?
I do know, and he is not available, but he left me a whole bunch of notes. If you will indulge me, I can share them.
Yep, so just for the commission's, Dan Connor is the president of the Probation Officers Association.
Yeah, Dan Connor is also a senior probation officer in my office, in my department, so he often sits down here with me, but he's also our defensive tactics instructor, and he's been held hostage, maybe a bad choice of words, doing that today. So with that said, he did leave me a bunch of comments to pass on. It's mostly informational. Our past conference this past summer was in July, and it was held in Fairport. And here's the booklet from it. It was called "Not All Heroes Wear Capes" was the theme, and it was well attended. And I attended it myself. And I will say, from a personal note, this is probably one of the best set of workshops that I've been able to experience. Albeit I was only able to attend a few of them because I'm also on that committee, so I was busy doing other tasks. But OPCA did a nice set of workshops, including our own friend Frank Cangiano did a workshop on critical incidents. It was super informative. Actually, you would think that would be a super boring topic. He did a great job with it. And all the other ones that I attended were just very good workshops, and all the feedback from all the sessions were positive. So next summer, July of 2026, it'll be back in Syracuse at the Embassy Suites. We've been there before, and we'll be back there again. It's nice because it's kind of really, when you look at Syracuse, that's really central to the state. But it also, you know, we look at cost factors when trying to find the hotels and things like that. Conference of 2027. They are, and Judge, you might appreciate this. They're looking at the Harbor Hotel in Clayton, which is Jefferson County. But for us to be able to afford those rates, we may be looking to, they might have to move it to May instead of the summer to have a better hotel rate, but a beautiful location nonetheless. There is, in February of 2026, the POA has scheduled a legislative education day again, where various members from the POA go down and meet with various legislators and talk about issues related to probation, how it can affect funding, and issues like things like that. Our last commission meeting, there was some discussion about the 207C. POA is working to draft a letter of support for 207C to send to DCJS and COPA. And reaching out to CSEA as a sideline there as well. And Dan's final comment was he's very appreciative of Matt Charton. They've been having a lot of open monthly communications, and Dan says it's been excellent, and he really appreciates the support and the openness with your office down there, Matt. So thank you on his behalf. End of POA report.
Thank you, Joe. Please thank Dan on behalf of the commission for his comments.
Will do.
I will say, in terms of POA, I've often thought maybe OPCA should submit a probation commission presentation of, like, you know, what is it, who is it, and what do they do? I'm not sure that the commission has got an appetite to go to Syracuse and do that presentation, but it's often been in my mind, just as thought, not an official presentation, Joe, or offering. Anybody comments on Joe's presentation for PLA?
All I have to say is if they invite me to Harbor Side Hotel, I will be there.
Consider yourself invited.
That's a
It would be
beautiful place
good
to see.
if you offer a presentation.
Yeah, you could see the sunset and the sunrise from, I mean, it's pretty amazing that's a beautiful place on St. Lawrence River there.
A lot of people don't understand the geographical area. When you say Niagara Falls, everybody knows what you're talking about. But when you talk about the Thousand Islands, a lot of people, especially downstate, don't understand what that is. It's the river that separates U.S. and Canada. And Clayton is one of those towns, and it's in Jefferson County. You're looking across the river, you're staring at Canada. And we are that close. A stone's throw away. There's a bridge right to Canada. It's a beautiful spot on the river. It's all navigable. There's tons of stuff to do. And I'm a little disappointed in you, Judge, that you came up here and you didn't seek me out. I'm just going to say that for the record. I'm 20 minutes away.
Next time I know.
All right, there you go.
Hey, Joe, COPA used to do a lot of we used to do our summer conferences up there. I remember going up there 3 or 4 times.
Well, Rocco, the 2026 conference is in Clayton at the Harbor Hotel, and Your Honor, I am extending the official invitation to you at this point, so you can come in here earlier.
Yeah, I've been wanting to go back up to the Thousand Islands for years.
Don't steal my thunder. Come on. I asked him first.
I couldn't make last year's meeting because I was kind of tied up in some things going on in the county, but I will certainly try to be there.
I need to go on to another meeting. So I know we're winding down, but I need to get off right away. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of your comments and all your contributions and all of your work. Did I miss the part number 7? Maybe I was trying to deal with something else, but is there any discussion about the filling that vacant position? Or is that a governor's appointment?
Yes, Judge, that's a governor's appointment, and we've made the recommendation, and it's working its way through appointments. We can have an update on where that is to the commission. I could send something out to commission members.
Right. I mean, former probation commissioner Bermudez obviously is a great addition to this and make some great contributions. But I don't know who we recommended, but I just think that there needs to be. I mean, New York City is the place where the crime. I mean, in other words, it really needs, this commission needs some representation from someone from probation in New York City. I mean, I'm just shocked that there isn't a member from New York City, given the high volume of cases, all of the problem-solving courts that happen. And I think, maybe we could get someone to attend our meetings and not be a commissioner. But one way or another, I would really love to see someone from New York City probation be a part of these discussions because, not to mention, I think you all understand the reasons why. But I have to run to another meeting. Please forgive me. And great to see you all.
Have a great holiday, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much.
See you in Clayton.
Okay. Last item on the agenda is any new business. Any member or like to raise anything under new business? Recognizing that it's lunchtime, I second that silence. So thank you. And so that will close our 2025 Fall Probation Commission meeting. I want to thank the membership for being here and taking the time to join our meetings. I want to thank the guests for making time to come up and participate in the meeting. I do hope everybody has a happy holiday. Dean, would you like to say anything? No? Okay, everybody, happy holiday.
Happy holidays, everybody. All right.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Frank, thank you for your work.
Time to go down, but I know it's working season, so it-
What time do you mean? What?
Yeah,
Is it down at Broadway?
yeah. I actually lucked out because I made one loop